When smoke filled the air. There was a time when smoke was as British as drizzle and dry humour. Every pub, cafe and busque carried that faint blue haze, the mark of a nation where cigarettes weren't a vice, but a ritual. You could tell a man's class, his job, even his football team by what brand he lit. So, take a slow breath of memory and join us as we revisit 10 cigarette brands only true Brits remember. 1. Players. Number 6. The year was 1965, Britain was swinging, the Beatles ruled the charts, and Players launched their answer to the nation's growing thirst for affordable smokes. Players number 6, a name as familiar as the jingle of loose change. With its simple blue and white packet and bold, uncompromising flavour, it was the cigarette of the factory floor and the lorry cab. A pack cost just pennies, and every teen who fancied rebellion tried one behind the bike sheds. But when cigarette taxes changed and king size became the fashion, number 6 slipped away, another working-class hero lost to time. 2. Camel. Across the Atlantic came something different, Camel. Imported, exotic, slightly rebellious. The camel and pyramid on the pack hinted at travel, jazz and late-night cafes in Soho. Artists, writers and dreamers loved it. It was smoother, pricier and just foreign enough to feel dangerous. But when the 80s brought price parity and health warnings, its mystique faded. Today, the name lives on, but the old British camels, like the artists who swore by them, belong to another world entirely. 3. Capstan. Now this one wasn't for the faint-hearted. Capstan Full Strength, the cigarette that hit like a miner's handshake. Unfiltered, uncompromising, unmistakably working class. It was the smoke of dockers, shipbuilders, and men who measured life in calluses and shifts. For decades, it was a badge of grit, until filters arrived and the word mild became fashionable. But ask any old-timer, and they'll tell you, Capstan was the real deal. One drag, and you'd feel it in your boots. 4. Embassy. Then came Embassy, the polished professional of the smoking world. A gleaming red and gold packet that whispered confidence rather than shouted it. It was Britain's best seller through the 60s, with slogans like, "Inhale to your heart's content." Embassy coupons filled kitchen drawers, traded for kettles, radios, even bicycles. It wasn't just a cigarette, it was a lifestyle. But as the 80s turned cautious and health warnings grew louder, Embassy's glamour dimmed. Today, only the name survives, remembered like a brand once worn with pride. 5. Woodbine. Woodbine. The soldier's smoke. Cheap, strong, and unmistakably British. Born in 1888, these unfiltered sticks were passed through trench lines, shared in factory yards, and smoked to the very end. Their taste was fierce, tarry, honest, no pretense. They stained fingers, cracked voices, and comforted millions through war and work alike. By the 1980s, they were gone, filtered, softened, and eventually forgotten. Yet for many, the smell of a Woodbine still means home. 6. Consulate. For those who wanted refinement with their smoke, there was Consulate. Cool, crisp, and faintly mint-scented. As cool as a mountain stream, the adverts promised. At a time when most cigarettes were rough and ready, Consulate arrived like a breath of alpine air. Its white and green packet stood out among the browns and golds of its rivals, clean, elegant, modern. It became the choice of women, the young and the newly fashionable. Menthol felt almost healthy then, almost sophisticated. But like many trends, it faded quietly into the ashtray of history, banned, forgotten, and remembered only for that cool whisper of freshness Britain once adored. 7. Craven. Will not affect your throat, declared the slogan. A promise that today sounds almost comical, but in its day was revolutionary. Craven A was the gentleman's cigarette, refined, polite, and proudly British. With its red, white, and black packaging, it looked sharp in the pocket of a city man's coat. It offered smoothness at a time when most smokes rasped like sandpaper. From London to Kent, Craven A was the choice of those who fancied themselves a little above the ordinary. But as filters became standard and foreign brands arrived with flashier names, Craven quietly bowed out. Still, for a generation, it was sophistication wrapped in cellophane. 8. Senior Service. Now here was Strength, the senior service, named for the Royal Navy itself. Its very name carried the salt of the sea and the pride of uniformed men. The pack, white, orange and blue, looked almost naval, with anchors and banners declaring duty and honour. These cigarettes were unfiltered, unapologetic, and thoroughly British. They hit the throat like a North Sea gale, and that was the point. A smoke for those who wanted their lungs to earn their keep. By the early 2000s, it had vanished, another relic of a nation that once prized stoicism above comfort. 9. Strand. Few brands have ever failed so spectacularly and so memorably. In 1959, Wills tried to sell Strand as the thinking man's cigarette. The advert showed a lonely figure walking London's rain-slick streets, jazz curling through the fog, as a soft voice whispered, "You're never alone with a Strand." But Britain saw loneliness, not style. The man looked miserable, not mysterious. Sales collapsed almost overnight, turning the ad into legend. Yet, for all its failure, the cigarette itself wasn't bad. Medium strength, smooth, well made. Today, it's remembered not for its smoke, but for its melancholy charm, proof that even marketing missteps can become folklore. 10. Rothman's King Size. Finally, the name that still brings a nod of respect, Rothman's King Size. It walked the perfect line between class and craft. Blue and white elegance, a taste both strong and refined. It was the cigarette of ambition, smoked by the man in the suit who fixed his own car on weekends. Rothmans sponsored sports, polished its image, and for years held the loyalty of those who valued substance over show. Today, the name remains, but the soul of it, that distinct aroma and confident flavour, has long since drifted away. To those who remember, it was the last true gentleman's smoke. A nation in smoke. They weren't just cigarettes. They were punctuation marks in everyday life, between the tea break and the train home, between a laugh and a sigh. Each brand told a story of class, culture, and quiet rebellion. From the soldiers who lit woodbines in the trenches, to the jazzmen who puffed camels in Soho, Britain once spoke through smoke. And though the air is cleaner now, something of that world, its rhythm, its resilience, its unspoken camaraderie, still lingers in memory. If this journey sparked a memory, do subscribe to Inside Britain for more stories from our shared past, and tell us in the comments, which of these vanished brands do you remember most? Perhaps your father's favourite, your grand's guilty pleasure, or the one you tried behind the bike shed. We'd love to hear your story.